Welcome to Watertown Sports Talk, everyone. I'm Dick Najarian. What a show we have for you today. You're going to watch this show 6, 8, 10 times. As many times as it's played, you're going to watch it. We have with us today Bob Kaprielian and Phil Stackpole, two of Watertown's great athletes of the past. And they're still with us today. And we're going to talk a little bit about their past history in Watertown and sports. We're going to talk about the Watertown High School Athletic Hall of Fame and tell a few stories about the old days in Watertown and bring the folks up to date with the Hall of Fame so you'll know where we are. I'm sure most of the viewers out there know that the Hall of Fame exists, but maybe we really don't know how it came to be. So I'm going to ask Bob, first of all, to kind of give us some background about how the fame came about. How did you, I guess you're the founding father of it, it's my understanding. How did this happen to come about, Bob?
Richard, I first must say, I am so delighted to be on this show. It's like being on...
Excellent.
It's like getting...
glad to have you here.
Leno, well, actually, the ratings just came in.
Yeah, I'm up there pretty good.
And the Dick Najarian Sports Talk Show
is up there high,
right,
way up.
Off the roof.
Way up.
And I have to say, I just love your set.
I feel like this is the best.
I think this is, it reminds me of Edward R. Murrow. And,
exactly.
Well, thanks to Peter and Jack, this is what we have. Good stuff.
The Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Well, I think that growing up in Watertown, we all had our own kinds of people that we thought were Hall of Famers. Who was better quarterback, Billy Boyce,
yep.
Rick Strum, and these names that float. And we all grew up with that kind of background, especially all three of us. We just went through from kindergarten. I'm still here, but mentally, you folks are still in Watertown.
We still are,
Your
right.
hearts are still
Yeah,
there
absolutely,
anyway.
absolutely.
Yeah, no question.
So that's always kinds of things that are on our minds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the tipping point, or the thing that triggered this thing, was I happened to run into Skippy Vigorola. Now, Skippy, that may not mean anything to you, but if you go down Concord Avenue and go
Belmont,
by Belmont,
right?
You'll see the Skippy Vigorola skating rink.
I have noticed that, Bob. Yeah.
And Skippy, I knew him from Northeastern. He was an outstanding hockey player, as you can imagine. Just happened to run across him, and it was the spring of 1991. And I had read in the paper that he was inducted. I said, Skippy, congratulations, I'm so proud of you. And somewhere during the conversation, he said, does Watertown High School have a Hall of Fame? He said, no, we don't. And there was another pause. Well, you should. You have some great athletes. And I said, Skippy, I absolutely agree with you. That kind of fomented. That was kind of, the seed was planted, and I kind of let it bubble around and set.
When was this, Bob?
That was the spring of 1991.
91. Uh-huh.
Over the summer, I just kind of tweaked this and thought about that, and I said, well, why don't I make some calls and see if, just what the response is.
Sure.
I made a list of, I thought, people that would be good committee people who covered the different decades. So I started with, I can tell you who I started with, Sal Ciccarelli.
Sal Ciccarelli.
And there was no question. It was, what can I do to help? Every call was the same response. What can I do? We should have one.
It's wonderful.
Let's do it.
Yep.
So, 91, we spent, I can't tell you how many meetings we had. And we broke down into committees, into decades, into people who had expertise in their particular, or knowledge in their decades. We then went out, researched it, and then we had meetings upon meetings. You can imagine trying to come up with that charter group.
Tough, there's so many.
You're talking 80 years of athletic excellence in Watertown High School.
Sure.
So we spent, good 8 months, lots of meetings.
Right.
Finally, we had our first Hall of Fame, and you were there.
Yes, I've attended many of them.
The first Hall of Fame, it's like when you say, we're going to have a party, and the invitations go out, and then you say, who's going to come? Well, at first...
Is anybody going to come?
Yeah,
Is anybody going to show up?
And I have to tell you, I still have a very clear memory of that. It's a memory that I'll always cherish. We're 500, 550, we had to actually shut the door.
Packed, I remember. Packed.
And it was a delightful evening. And I still remember the first person we decided who should be the lead-off, with the person to make the first speech, Doc Mastrangelo. Doc Mastrangelo, we thought he'd have a million
A
stories.
great choice.
Yeah.
We thought we'd have a million stories. And he was a town physician since the turn of the century, last century. He walked up to the podium, looked around, and said, "Thank you."
Yeah, goodbye.
And walked on.
Well,
And we looked at Bob.
some people get a little frightened,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they don't want to talk in front of a group.
So that has been the history. We every year we research, we select, we talk about individual inductees. We look at teams, we look at coaches, special inductees, people who've made a contribution to Watertown athletics at some level, and so that's kind of
Where we are. Bob, what I was going to ask you is there a special number of inductees each time you do this? Are you limited like to 6, 7, or could it be 10, or how does that work?
well.
Does that vary from year to year?
The board, the committee decided that we break down from 1900 to 1940. We'll take one candidate, and so we have these 4 huge blocks of time. So we take one from each.
Yep.
And then we go back, after we get the 4, we go back over and get the top 2 vote getters, and that'll make it 6. We've decided that because we are now doing it every other year,
Right.
that we would induct 2 teams. And we took this year, we have the 1987 girls field hockey team. Of course, field hockey teams and field hockey players, I mean,
Well, they've been great for 15 years or whatever.
so they would
I
use
know,
up
that's
this, so they
right.
would, you know, they would just obliterate every other team.
Exactly.
But this year, Phil Stackpole's team, the 1949 football team coached by Joe Zeno, will also be inducted, one of Watertown High School's.
Maybe we should have interrupted and have Phil talk about that team a little bit, Phil, if you'd like to, about the 49 football team. Who was on it, record-wise?
Okay, well, I just finished, I might add that Bob asked me to join the committee just prior to this latest choice, and I can see what they go through every year, and it's not easy. And I enjoy going to the meetings, but they take it very seriously.
Sure.
But anyway, the football team of 49 was inducted this year, and we have been waiting for quite a while to be inducted because we thought we had probably the finest team that Watertown ever had. And I say that because I know Bob played on a football team that was inducted a few years back. Is that true, Bob?
Well, that happened to
Okay.
that was a state championship football team.
Well, there could be some discussion over that,
Yes,
over
but
which one.
fortunately, the guy who was responsible for all of this, as far as success of football in Watertown, was Joe Zeno, the coach.
I knew Joe.
And I'm going to throw this in Bob's face too. Joe Zeno, his best record was ours, 8-1.
There you go.
Yeah, there was 2 7-1 teams, 52 and 53, perhaps. Yeah, my memory's better than I thought it was. But we have names like Phil Renzi and Jack Shashudian.
Yep.
It's unusual to have an Armenian fella in Watertown, but we
Well,
got him on
it happens
there.
once in a while. It's very rare, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we just had lunch with John Vlakis, who was on that team as a center. Did I say Phil Renzi? Yes,
Yeah,
I did. And
yeah.
Phil's brother, Gene Renzi,
And
who played
I'd
tackle.
like to interrupt you for just a
No,
moment.
go right
Sure.
ahead.
Gene
jump in.
Renzi was one of my heroes growing up. He was 2 years ahead of me. He was a tackle, and I decided that's who I want to be. Well, Gene Renzi, of course, went on to Northeastern. I followed him to Northeastern,
right.
and then, but he happened to move on to professional football, which I was not. I was out of my pay grade.
Well.
But the thing is that Gene Renzi is a retired 2-star general.
Can you imagine that?
The,
Two-star
the,
general. That's
the
amazing.
most senior Army, probably military person to ever graduate from Watertown High School. He's actually bringing his son, Rick Renzi, and I said, Gene, do I know him? He said, well, he's a congressman from
Arizona.
Wow. Imagine.
So I
That's
said, "I said,
terrific,
"Oh."
isn't it?
But they'll be here for the Hall of Fame, and in fact, they come to Watertown High School. I'm going to be speaking to
That's
some of the classes.
excellent, yeah. Gene Renzi, his brother too is,
Phil Renzi was on that team.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was a good team, good record.
Yes, it was a 8-1 record, and
Yep.
I had to. Well, I was very happy to be able to write the theme for the acceptance as far as the '49 team. And one of the things that we discussed at lunch today was what happened in 1949. The only loss we had was to Arlington High School, and that was the 8th game that we played. And there were estimates of between 10 and 12,000 people showed up at Victory Field for that. It was quite a memory.
I've read newspaper articles that at the crowd was estimated from 12 to 15.
Imagine.
I
Yeah.
mean, it was just,
Yeah, that's
there
great.
never had been a crowd of that number at Victory Field, and there never will be.
Right.
Well, in this day and age, the crowds seem to be dwindling a little bit. And Watertown football,
That's
they've
for
got
sure.
some work to do. They're working hard, trying hard, but we'll see. Hopefully, they'll build that program back again, as maybe to the level of you folks. Who
Right.
knows?
Well, you bring
Go ahead,
that
Phil.
up, and I think Bob asked me to do the Thanksgiving Day with him, which was played at home, and I was appalled at the amount of people there. It was just so small.
Well, Phil, everybody is doing many things, and folks, you know what it is too. If you're winning, people come out to see you.
Exactly,
If you're not
exactly,
winning, they
right.
kind of look for something
Right.
else to do,
Right,
and that's unfortunate.
right.
Yeah.
So
Let me ask a question. I don't know if you know this off the top of your head. Was the football team of 1960? Are they in the hall?
Yes, that's the.
That was that Capadonna
the
era where they
Capadonna-
lost one game
the,
too, I
the
believe.
Capadonna team, 1960, they lost.
They lost to
there was
Beverly.
a crowd. There was a crowd that was estimated at
Well,
10,000.
that I remember because I was at that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And the last play of the game, Watertown is moving in for a touchdown. Instead of everybody expected Capadonna, Bob, the greatest running back ever to play for Watertown
Yep.
High School, to carry the ball. Well, it was a fake handoff to Capadonna. Capadonna went in 11 people.
on
We
Capadonna.
were on Capadonna, and it was just a pitch.
Right.
Well, Verocchi was just pitched out, and the ball, the fake was so good that it fooled
It was
Back
fumbled,
judge.
right?
No,
No,
it
the
full-
official, it hit the
it-
official.
the official. It just hit
That's
the
right.
official. The ball
Oh.
lay there.
Yeah.
Somebody.
What an awful
game
way to
ended.
lose the game.
That would have been the greatest team. That would have been the first team inducted into the Hall of Fame. But equally, there would have been a real argument. The undefeated team of 1977. That was truly an outstanding team. as
Well, there's been many, obviously, many
Yeah,
outstanding teams.
Well, I think Phil Stackpole's 49 team is in the top 5.
Oh, yeah, no doubt
Yeah.
about it. I'm sure that
Yeah.
you get the folks together that played on these teams, you'll have a good discussion.
And the separation is 1 degree.
It is 1 degree
You
separation.
know, it's
yeah.
not like one play here.
Yeah, exactly.
One play that could have gone the other way to 77 team and so forth. So it's exciting to try
Yeah.
to ferret out the, and it's so, there's no hard and fast rules. When you're talking a track athlete, you got times. So
Sure.
when you're talking about inducting a lineman, no one's counting the blocks. The only people that
Well, yeah, it's hard to get some data on
That's
that
true,
stuff,
right,
obviously,
right.
the
right.
people who know the
But if
coaches,
you win the 50-yard dash or the state title for that, it's there.
the numbers are there.
Yeah, but if
The
you're a
numbers there.
great
baseball.
blocker, baseball
Baseball.
too, you get some.
Right.
And basketball,
Yeah.
points scored or whatever,
Exactly.
you got something.
We had, this was Joe Zeno's first year, of course. And as I wrote in this paper for the program, when he showed up one hot August day in '49, there were 24 kids out there. So you can imagine what he was thinking as he walked.
What have I got
24
myself
kids, I
into
know
here?
it.
Yeah.
And that was just because the previous years there was nothing as far as football was concerned.
But those 24 kids, they were superior athletes.
Yeah.
So
You had a nucleus then anyway.
Right.
In my opinion, Joe Zeno was a fine coach. I did play a little bit very poorly, and so I did know him well.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I was
he
there
a
when you
great
broke
guy.
your leg. I just
Oh,
want to let you
well,
know
that's-
that's part
we
of
don't
history.
care about
Part of
broken
history.
legs.
Was
I
that on a
there.
play?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah?
Would you like me to describe
No,
the play?
no. I told you, we're not going to go into that stuff. No. I'm not talking about the Dexter Spa in the corner and hanging
Dexter
around and leaning into a building for 20 years. Like he read